Russian dictator Vladimir Putin is afraid of ending the war against Ukraine because his own soldiers could topple his government. The US is ready to destroy Russia economically. Meanwhile, Trump's administration has allowed to transfer weapons to Ukraine for the first time. So why does Vladimir Putin is afraid of ending the war in Ukraine, and how does the US ready to put even more pressure to destroy Vladimir Putin's regime? Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has rejected Putin's offer for a 3-day ceasefire in Ukraine from May 8 to May 11, urging Vladimir Putin to agree instead with a 30-day proposal on a ceasefire in Ukraine, which has been proposed by US President Donald Trump. Also, Ukrainian President Zelensky says that he cannot guarantee security for Russian army during Vladimir Putin's military parade in Moscow.
Today is the 54th day that Russia has ignored the American proposal for a complete ceasefire. We believe that a ceasefire is possible at any time, even from today, and should last at least 30 days to give diplomacy a real chance. And I am grateful to the Czech Republic for supporting our position in this proposal. I am also grateful to you for understanding that pressure on Russia is really needed. Putin is very eager to show off his tanks at the parade, but he should not think about that. He should think about the real end of his war. And 3 things are needed: more sanctions against Russia, continued support for Ukraine, and a noticeable increase in defense cooperation across Europe. Russia must know that Europeans will absolutely defend themselves.
Also, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky revealed interesting details about the cooperation, military cooperation between Ukraine and the Czech Republic. He says that Czech Republic and other European allies are ready to send 1.8 million artillery shells to Ukraine to remind Vladimir Putin about the unity of European allies, and to just share another message with Putin that Ukraine is not standing alone, but with European allies which are ready to support Ukraine for as long as it takes.
We discussed that 1.8 million shells could be delivered this year, which is a significant amount. Tomorrow, we will have a meeting with Czech defense companies. We are still working on the details. Today, President Pavel and our representatives at the government and military levels will discuss the next steps in the development of our aviation coalition, namely the creation of a Czech-Ukrainian F-16 school. Obviously, for security reasons, we cannot open such a base in Ukraine at this time. Russian strikes continue every day, and therefore we are working with our partners to ensure that such schools can be opened outside Ukraine, and this will happen.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky also says that he is ready to being supported by the European allies. There are additional discussions between European allies and Ukrainian government on further support of Ukraine. So, as we know, previously, US President Donald Trump has proposed for a ceasefire, to impose 30-day ceasefire in Ukraine. However, Vladimir Putin has rejected this offer. Russian dictator Putin has rejected this offer for a 30-day ceasefire. He instead has been announcing his own 1 or so-called 2 days ceasefire without any kind of coordination with European allies and Ukraine. As Ukrainian Foreign Minister Andriy Sybiha said, Vladimir Putin is just pretending to properly be ready for a ceasefire. However, why don't we impose a full-day, 30-day ceasefire to properly enforce this peace agreement and to properly allow Ukraine to exist as a sovereign state despite Vladimir Putin's war and his war objective? Meanwhile, German newspaper Bild reported about the serious concerns inside Vladimir Putin's regime and his fear of ending the war against Ukraine. According to the German newspaper Bild, Vladimir Putin is afraid of ending the war in Ukraine because he doesn't want his own soldiers to return home. So if Vladimir Putin decides to end the war in Ukraine, according to German newspaper Bild, there would be serious consequences of this decision, both politically and social. Soldiers who will return from the battlefield to home, to Russia, will have serious problems regarding having proper work after his military career, and also they can participate in serious crimes against Russian citizens, and this is the main concerns of the Russian government right now. Also, Vladimir Putin is afraid of stopping and halting his military-industrial base, because in such case many people will be left without any kind of work, and this will only increase social pressure on Kremlin. Moreover, according to the Washington Post, there is a big concerns in Kremlin about the rare earth minerals deal between Ukraine and the United States. Russian allies are getting even more worried that this deal is getting the United States in support for Ukraine. They are really concerned about this deal, and there are concerns that this deal could align Ukraine with the United States and could influence Donald Trump's thinking on supporting Ukraine, and could turn Donald Trump against Vladimir Putin, his regime, and his inner circle. Moreover, according to Russian allies, they are worried that this deal is closing the window of opportunity for Russian allies, for Vladimir Putin to reach a preferable peace agreement on Russian terms, because after this deal is signed, the US could support Ukraine economically and militarily and stand with Ukraine, and do not support such a pro-Russian deal in case of serious negotiating decisions there. And also, there is a big concerns in the Kremlin that this decision could also suspend and halt this deepening ties between Russian and American allies. At the same time, Trump's administration is getting ready to inflict more pain on the Russian economy. Serious decisions are on the Donald Trump's table right now. So Donald Trump's team is ready to impose sanctions on Russia. According to Bloomberg, Trump's administration has prepared various of decisions and various of sanctions against Russian economy and Russian dictator Vladimir Putin. However, the final decision has not yet been made, but Trump's administration is ready to inflict pain on Russia. As we know previously, US President Donald Trump has been threatening Russia with additional tariffs and sanctions against Russian economy if Vladimir Putin declines his so-called peace offer regarding Ukraine. As we know, Vladimir Putin declined a 30-day ceasefire in Ukraine, and that's why Donald Trump is getting ready to impose additional sanctions against Russia. Moreover, according to the New York Times, the US administration has green-lighted a transfer of air defense systems to Ukraine, Patriot systems from Greece or Israel to Ukraine. This decision has been, this deal has been made even by previous Biden's administration. However, Trump's administration did not block this decision, did not halt this transfer of weapons. Moreover, earlier last week, we have been hearing reports that Trump's administration for the first time has allowed a sale of military equipment to Ukraine for amount of $50 million. So there are some earlier signs that Trump's administration is ready to support Ukraine, at least to sell Ukraine weapons, which are really badly needed for Ukrainian economy and for Ukraine's defense, and also to support Ukraine this year, and also to support Ukraine against its fight against Russian regime. Also, as we know, this year and also this week, Trump administration and Donald Trump has made interesting statement about the unwillingness of Vladimir Putin to settle the war. Several days ago, he said that he is not confident that a ceasefire deal could be reached. However, due to the rare earth minerals deal between Ukraine and the US could, even if the US abandons ceasefire talks, the US would likely to sell Ukraine weaponry and to provide Ukraine with military assistance due to the provisions of this rare earth mineral deals. At the same time, US President Donald Trump has made some interesting remarks about his domestic politics and his fight against illegal migration. So Donald Trump has announced also the Alcatraz site to be reopened for the first time since the last 60 years. So he says that he is directing his government to reopen and also expand the Alcatraz side to properly enforce and to help his law authorities to tackle and to fight with illegal immigration.
Where did you get the idea for reopening Alcatraz?
Just an idea I've had, and I guess because the judges, so many of these radicalized judges, they want to have trials for every single, think of it, every single person that's in our country illegally, that came in illegally, that would mean millions of trials, and it's just so ridiculous what's happening. And it's long been a symbol, Alcatraz, of whatever it is. I mean, it's a sad symbol, but it's a symbol of law and order. And, it's got quite a history, frankly.
At the same time, Albanese government has secured his second term in the office. His party has gained more than 78 seats in the parliament, and this election has been influenced by the Trump's tariffs. As we know, Donald Trump has imposed devastating tariffs against all countries in the world, including Australia, and this decision has helped to mobilize Albanese government supporters, his political base, to support his government, and even Australia's far-right parties did not gain the win in this election because Albanese government has won 78 seats in this election campaign, in this fight. And let us hear what the new Prime Minister of Australia is addressing right now after his big win in this general election.
This morning and yesterday I've spoken with a number of leaders. I've spoken with Prime Minister Marape, President Prabowo of Indonesia, President Zelensky of Ukraine, Prime Minister Keir Starmer, Prime Minister Mark Carney, who invited me to attend the G7 in Canada in June, and I have accepted that invitation, and President Donald Trump of the United States. I have meetings scheduled, or phone calls scheduled this afternoon with Prime Minister Lawrence Wong.
With Donald Trump, was that a telephone conversation? What can you tell us about it?
I had a very warm and positive conversation with President Trump just a short while ago when I was at the lodge, and I thank him for his very warm message of congratulations. We talked about how AUKUS and tariffs will continue to engage. We will engage with each other on a face-to-face basis at some time in the future. But it was a very warm, and I thank him for reaching out in such a positive way.
And we will analyze the next news regarding Australia, the United States, and Ukraine in our next episodes on YouTube. That's all for today. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, stay with us on YouTube, and glory to Ukraine.